Welcome to the Biz Coach Show, brought to you by My Biz Coaches. Our show is focused on giving entrepreneurs the edge they need to succeed. Learn more at mybizcoaches.com. Our guest today is Bill Sullivan, Partner Development Manager with Source One Payment Solutions and Landmark Payroll. Source One has been helping clients with merchant services, POS systems, and financing since 2003 with over 500 accounts. Landmark Payroll has been helping clients with payroll and other needs since 2014 with over 400 accounts. Learn more at source1ps.com and landmarkpayroll.com. Well, Bill, we are very excited to have you with us today. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, thanks for asking. And we got Eric. Eric, how are you doing?
Doing excellent, David. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Awesome. Yep. Always good to hang out with you, and got a lot of great topics here today, and we're excited to pick your brain, Bill. Before we do that, though, I'd love to learn just a little bit more about kind of your journey, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with our audience for a few minutes, kind of how you got to where you are and helping all these businesses.
Well, I was working downtown. I had a gentleman I rented apartments for and managed a couple of his buildings, and I just got sick of the drive going downtown every day. So I called up a gentleman I spoke with some months back, probably about a year ago, and he had, I'd always done well at sales, and he said, this is the kind of thing where I could make more money because I would, start to get residual income and things like that over time, and I thought, it was close to my house, so I'm gonna give this a try. And so about 9 years ago, I started working for Glenn, the owner of the company here, and started doing outside sales for what he had just started a payroll company. Initially, they had been just credit card processing, and then they moved over and developed a payroll company. So I sold both payroll and credit cards for him for several years until he decided to put me in a partner development manager position. Awesome. Which is where I currently have. Yeah.
Awesome, Bill. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. And Eric, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about how you and Bill got connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I honestly I think it was Alignable that we connected on, but
yep.
Yeah. So Bill reached out to me. We were talking about possible opportunities for collaboration. As you know, we always look to vet our vendor solutions, the people that we introduce our clients to. And so got on the phone, talked through Bill with, what they offer both on the credit card processing as well as the payroll solutions. And as we were going through the conversations, Bill was enlightening me on credit card processing fees and how they're structured and how most clients likely aren't familiar with, how much they're paying for their credit card processing, which we were already somewhat privy to that with some of the experiences we had with some of our clients. And Bill offered to, he'd shared a lot of information with me about how some of these things are gathered, how this information and some really insightful information for me. And I was just like, wow, okay, you know what? Hey, would you mind jumping on our show and sharing some of this information? Because that is something our clients should know. So, but that's how we got to talking. And I'm like, this would be a great opportunity for him to kind of showcase his knowledge and more importantly, help educate some of our clients on some of the information, particularly around the credit card processing.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. It's something Absolutely. I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, he was quite passionate about it, which I could appreciate.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's a great segue into our topic for today, which is payment processing pointers. And so, Bill, we're excited to kind of tap into that knowledge that Eric was just talking about. And maybe a good place to start is talking a little bit about what small business owners tend to overlook when it comes to the credit card evaluation process. So any thoughts or maybe tips on that one, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of overlook mostly everything because they don't really, they're pointed in a direction generally that is most advantageous to the processing company and not the customer. It's a residual based income, and most of the time credit card processors are going to try and get the most money they can out of that merchant. And that's just the unfortunate truth of it. Some places are better than others. It's always dependent upon the particular agent that they're working with. I tend to be, my mother raised me. She always said, I can't stand a liar. There's one thing I can't stand. So I grew up, I never lie. I always tell the truth. I just think it's the right thing to do. I just believe in being, transparent about everything. So, you do to people the way you want to be treated, treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's just how I believe. So when I talk about this stuff, it's there's so many ways that they kind of point people in different directions. And I'll kind of get into this as we talk more, but they really overlook a lot of different things. There's level 2, level 3 pricing involved they may not be aware of, how they take the card. A lot of people want to use Square because it's simple to understand, but they might be blowing thousands of dollars a month,
Wow, interesting. Well, and that's probably another topic I want to dive into. So you're talking about, Square or other point of sale software. What are some of the big things that, a small business owner who might be watching this or listening to this, maybe they're thinking about getting a point of sale system, or maybe they have one and they're not happy with it. What should they be thinking about or looking for when it comes to POS software?
They should be speaking to a consultant like myself who understands the variables, the multitude of variables in this business, and also has their best interests in mind. So I'll give you, for instance, something like a Toast. Toast is a great POS system. But Toast, what they do is they add every single thing, every feature you could have for POS systems in there because they want to attract the customers. Now, most companies are not going to utilize every feature on a Toast system, but they know they have the stuff that they need, so they use it. But what Toast doesn't offer is third-party processing. So you have to use their rates, and that's what they're trying to capture. They're trying to capture into you using their rates because they're a little bit higher than you'd pay with a third-party processor. A lot of companies do that. A lot of companies will allow a third-party processor, but they'll make you put an extra point on top of that. So what you want is somebody who specifically asks you the questions about your business and understands exactly what you need, and then gets you the best system with the most flexibility for your situation.
Yeah. I want to add something to that, David. With some of our clients, landscapers and other mobile units that are out there, there's a lot of apps that are being designed today, which I wasn't as familiar with until probably about 6 months ago. But when I had the coffee shop, I used Square. I didn't know any better. I just used Square because it was easy. It was simple. And Bill, I'll have a question for you after this because I think there's a good question there too. But in the beginning, it was like we're doing $20,000 a month in coffee shop sales. How much does it really make a difference, right? And that's the question I have for you, Bill. But the those apps that I was referencing, a lot of these companies are designing it, and they're bringing in the reason that they're bringing in the software at such a low price point because they know that these home service providers are working on tighter margins. And so what they do is they design these point of sale software similar, not a point of sale, but it's like a mobile tracking device for to keep track of the trucks and their employees. And they're taking pictures of the pool after they clean it and all that kind of stuff. But it's also integrating the merchant services. And that's how they're making their money, not so much on the software. They're bringing you in on the software as a user on the software for $100 or $200 a month and really relatively manageable. And then they have a per fee for every employee you have on there. But where they're really making their money on the back end is on the merchant processing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because, like I said, residual income and people are going to try and get what they can. They know the value of that. So,
right. So, Bill, what's a good question from I was thinking of is, like I said, the coffee shop with Square. I didn't really think much about it at the time, but right. How much are we giving up? And then at what threshold does it really make sense for me to look for that third party processing? Because if I'm doing a few $1,000s, probably doesn't make sense. But at what point?
No. But oddly enough, Square for a coffee shop was a good selection.
Okay.
Even though you didn't know much, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're talking low ticket and you're talking about a swipe charge of 10 cents, and your average ticket's only $5 maybe at a coffee shop. Well, now you're talking, that's 2 points right there. Now you're talking about 2% just on the swipe charge alone. So maybe the credit card is a 1.5 average interchange cost. Now you're looking at 3.5%. You're paying $2.75. Square knew this, and that's why they changed to $2.65 at a dime swipe. They didn't even have the wherewithal to understand when they launched the product that for low ticket under $10, they can't get away with the $2.75. They need to add a swipe charge to it. So later on, they add the swipe charge. They realize for things like coffee shops, that's actually a pretty good price. But when you're talking, larger ticket items, right, you're talking about a 2 point. If your average ticket's $100 and you're using Square, and the average interchange on a card is about 1.5, 1.6, you're losing a point, more than a point, almost every time you use that. Now, if you're processing $100,000 a month, you're losing $1,000 just in those type of things. So, but yeah, there's a threshold for every single account, and there's a point at which it makes sense to switch and when it doesn't. But that's where you have to have someone like me take a look at your statement, take a look at how you're processing, what kind of cards you're taking the most of. Are they over the phone? Are they in person? All these things affect the rates.
Right.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, certainly POS software, really big deal, as you talked about, third-party, not third-party functionality. Do you really need all the bells and whistles? Do you need something really basic? So I think those are all good pointers there. It's only half the solution, though, right? The other half of it is the hardware, so the point-of-sale hardware. So what are some considerations for small business owners when it comes to POS hardware?
Well, I almost hate to say this because it's the most oversold system that there is. I see guys that, mechanics, and I see hairdressers using, clovers, and I'm like, you don't need a clover to do hair. That's a totally different. That's not right. But salespeople have their agenda and they want to go out and push these clovers. So they're all over the place, but they are a good system. They do. What's nice about them is they have pretty much everything that Toast has. It has great inventory features, great ways to organize your business, and so forth. But they also have the ability to take like cash discount pricing, or they can set, you can set your rates on there what you want it to be yourself. They have 24-hour customer service. So if you have a restaurant or something, you're operating out the 9 to 5 normal times, you actually have a person you can call that can take control of your device and move things around and discuss with you what they're doing at any time. You can do it at 2 a.m, and that's pretty rare. So I think Clover's a really good system, POS system for things like restaurants and other businesses that have a lot of inventory.
Okay. And do you think every business needs hardware, or is it okay to do something that's kind of app-based on a tablet?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, you don't necessarily need. A lot of times people, for instance, I'll give you an example where people use even hardware they put like a device on their phone, they slide cards. A lot of times I'll recommend them for a virtual terminal as well, because it depends. They have like a multitude of things they do. Say they go around, they have different needs, they process different ways. An online system can be great because you can use it from your phone, you can use it from your computer. And, these days they allow things like cash discount as well, and you don't have to pay extra for that service. So yeah, virtual terminals are really popular and suited to a lot of different types of situations.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, this is interesting. Just, talking about things that you don't always think about. As I was preparing for our conversation today, I was checking out the Source One website. And one of the things that stuck out to me was gift cards and loyalty programs. And that may not be something that people tend to think about when they're vetting, a POS solution. So I'd be curious, maybe tell us a bit about that and kind of the impact those programs have on a small business.
Yeah, that's a great point. Loyalty programs are fantastic. The statistics, we use a simple machine that is good for a lot of businesses. I'm screwing it blank, sorry. So what it does is it captures the cardholder's information, including their phone number, so you can text them. And with this type of program, what happens is they've shown that it like a month's worth of processing. If they process 50,000 a year, once they implement this type of program, they're going to pick up an extra month's worth of processing. So if they're doing 250, if they're doing say 50,000 and they're doing 600,000 a year, they're going to be up to 650 within the first month. I'm from Chicago. There's a place out here called Fresh Brothers in Redondo Beach, and they have a good pizza, and they use this system. And whenever I get a text, I eat there way more often than I would have, because I get these texts. I'm like, ooh, that sounds good. I'm going to go over there. Right. I'm going to get one. It's special and everything. So it's really important to utilize those features, to have those, and to use it, because they really keep business coming back.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah. Interesting. We at one point we had a franchise business solution where they did text messaging as a marketing piece, and it was tied into the point of sale system. And I'm stretching my brain right now to remember who it was, but we were working that solution. There was a fee on the text messaging, but the statistics that we found, and this is going back quite a few years, this is probably 5-6 years, maybe 2017, 2016, something like that. But they were finding that they were getting increases of sales. Like what they did is they strategically target their days off, and like their off days, the slow days, the Tuesdays of the week and stuff like that, exactly. Or lunch on Wednesday kind of thing. And they would have an uptick of as much as 20 or 30% by doing a text campaign for those slower days, softer days when they normally wouldn't necessarily have good business. And they would see that kind of uptick in that because they would do, to your point, some kind of text campaign that would run a program on a buy one, get one or something like that.
Exactly. And
yeah, pretty amazing.
I always offer the 2 mediums for $22 during Monday through Thursday only. That's exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. It always comes out right as you're thinking about, man, what am I going to cook for dinner? And then it'd be easier just to go out, right? So you know what they're doing.
And it does. It's exactly what it comes with, just before dinner. So true.
Awesome. At 4:00 in the afternoon, or maybe for lunch, it's 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Right?
It's usually on my drive home, and I'm like, all right, forget this. I'm just going to.
That's awesome. Well, cool. That's great insight. I want to circle back to something you talked about earlier, Bill, and kind of unpack a little more, which was cash discount pricing. Maybe just talk to us a bit about what that is and why that's something that should be part of the evaluation process.
Well, cash discount pricing, for me, it's a very essential thing just in general for the country itself. I mean, talk about inflation factors. Yeah, this, we print money and throw it around like it's worthless, and it makes inflation go up, obviously. But one of the primary factors of inflation is these rewards that the credit card companies are offering. They sound great to people. They think, oh, well, I just pay everything off the end of the month, so I get no interest rate on the credit card, and I get cash back. And so I just put everything on my credit card. But what's happening is these rewards are costing businesses to raise their prices significantly. I mean, I'll give you a quick example. I have a restaurant that I signed up. They do $100,000 a month, consistently every month in credit cards, which is 90% plus of what they take in money. And they offer about a 13% profit margin. At the end of the month, they were getting a $3,000 bill for the sacred privilege of taking credit cards. They would get a $3,000 bill just taken right out of their account at once. So now that $13,000 that they made becomes $10,000. So it's these slim margins, that is a lot, cutting into a lot of their profit margin. So when people are getting these rewards, what they're doing is they're paying higher prices to begin with. So they're really breaking even. With cash discount, you're making them break even right at the store. So you take the business owner, you relieve the business owner of the expense of having to pay the credit card fees. Usually the guy using the credit card is going to get the money back anyways in his rewards. And the person who's really getting the crunches, there's people I know who go out and say, oh, well, I'm going to pay cash because I know that it costs money to take you a card. Well, they're having to pay higher prices and they're getting nothing back for it. Using cash discount is the fair thing to do. It allows business owners to get rid of that burden of having to pay all those credit card fees, which I don't think they ever should have had to begin with, frankly. And it's the way that my business is going, and I'm glad.
Great insight. One of the other things I noticed on the site was, again, something you may not think about when you're looking for a POS provider, merchant services, those sorts of things, was financing options. So maybe tell us a little bit about some of the financing options that are available through Source One.
Sure. Well, the nice thing about Source One, I've been with them, like I said, for almost 10 years. And the owner here, Glenn, he has a motto with the company. He says, if it makes sense, we'll do it. And that's just the way he looks at everything. So I've set up payments with people, for every monthly payments. You can take, we can give you a little bit higher processing rate initially until it's paid off. So it comes right out of your bill for your credit card processing. Monthly payments, quarterly payments. We're really flexible when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, if you have some way you want to approach it and it makes sense for us, we're going to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? And again, something that not everybody thinks about when they're looking for a provider. So good insight there. Yeah. Maybe let's shift gears a little bit. So we've talked a bit about Source One, POS systems. We've also got kind of Landmark Payroll as part of that portfolio of Source One. So maybe tell us a bit about some of the services that Landmark offers.
Sure. I mean, the main thing with Landmark Payroll is the staff here. We've been together for a long time. A lot of companies, they have a lot of movement. A lot of people, they don't know kind of what they're doing in there. So we're efficient here. We utilize the software ourselves. So it helps things run more efficiently. We're a good team. We work well together. So the customer service is a really important aspect of it. And then the software that we use, again, we pay attention to our customers. We're not going to put something on them that they don't need. But in speaking to them, we find something that's going to work well for their business, we're going to suggest that they take a look at it. And we have things like attract and hire as part of our software. And what that does is say if you want to hire people, restaurants have a lot of turnover, for instance, larger restaurants particularly. And what it'll do is it'll attach to thousands of job boards, all the main ones as well throughout the country. And based on the criteria that you set forth on, and we're looking for certifications, education, experience in certain ways, that's going to sort the applications for you on who you want to talk to first. And then once you click on you want to talk to them, it pre-fills all the pre-hire paperwork with all the pertinent information that's already been filled out on the application. And it just makes things run a lot more efficiently. There's so many different ways that the software helps businesses run more efficiently. It keeps track of T-shirt sizes. I mean, everything. If they've got a computer from it, when it's due. If there's a certification needed for an employee, when's that due? It'll notify them 60 days, have this done. So there's a lot of different ways. People think of payroll and they think of, cutting the checks for the employees, and that's true. And we're very accurate at that. And we do a good job of that. But with today's, software, the software that we use, there's a lot of different ways to help your business run a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I know that's a big pain point, right? For small business owners, they're already wearing a ton of hats and they're trying to keep track of things. And so the more you can automate, which is something Eric and I talk about a lot, is, if you can automate it, make it more streamlined, do it digitally. I mean, all that saves time, saves resources. So yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Bill, not to retract the payment solutions, but one of the things I wanted to mention was we talked briefly about the blended rate that people are paying. One of the things that I think most of my clients aren't familiar with is the challenge that they're proposed a certain rate that they think they're paying. But when you go back and you look at all the different cards and all the different rates per card, they're often paying way more than what was proposed to them because it was based on an ideal scenario, right? Of certain percentage being of these cards and certain percentage being debit and whatever other options that were available. And consequently, they're paying way more than what they anticipated. You speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I wrote something here called the evaluation, and I give examples of, ways. Read us to the stage ones. So the cost of interchange, like for instance on debit cards, I won't get into too much, but debit cards cost 0.5% to process. An average credit card is about 1.5 to 1.6. There's ones with higher interchange rates that have a higher risk factor. Obviously, American Express is one of those. It could be as high as 3 points, 3%. So what you need is someone like me who's going to look at their statement, see what kind of cards you're taking most of. Are they business cards that cost a lot more money? How you take them? You take them over the phone. That increases the risk of being real, so the percentage goes up. And if you do take them over the phone, are you utilizing level 2 processing? Can you utilize level 2 processing? Can you utilize level 3 processing? There's a lot of variables that go into what it costs. How much does the swipe charge cost because it's a high ticket? How much is it relative to being a low ticket item? So what you have to do is you have to look at all the variables that go into a particular situation and then come up to what's called an effective rate. And that effective rate is what you're going to be actually paying. And then as a processor, we put a little bit on top of that so we can make a little bit of money. But again, I had a friend of mine. It took me about a year to get into his company. I kept saying, let me take a look at your account. I've been in this business a while. So finally, he lets me come over and I take a look at everything. And he was processing about $500,000 to $600,000 a month. So quite a bit. But he was paying in 3 different types of ways. And people don't know what they're looking at when they're looking at these statements, and they think they can go research it, and they can't, because in our business, they're not going to make the pertinent information to them available. They just don't. So I saved him about $7,000 a month in processing fees. And that's how drastic it can be when you have somebody who doesn't, have the experience that I have in this business. That's the difference it can make. That's my most extreme example.
That's pretty substantial too. And it came up because one of my clients, we were doing an assessment, and they operate with 2 different banks. They're using the bank merchant services, which I'm never typically a big fan of, because usually I don't think the banks do a good job. That the bigger commercial banks are doing a good job of taking care of the small business owner.
No.
And we're going through, and he's convinced he's only paying like 1.85%. And I'm like, I guarantee you it's more than 1.85. And to your point, when we went through and we added it up and then matched it up, it was closer to like 3.6% is what he was actually paying when it was all said and done. And the worst part was, the more that we went through it, the more frustrated he got, because he's like, well, that's not what they told me. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, you have to factor in is that it's based on an ideal scenario. And, how often do we get the ideal scenarios?
It's not even necessarily that. In your case, it might have been, but it may be. I have a similar situation where, the ladies that owned a business they did $130,000 a month in processing, and they were a good company, nice people. I look at their statement, and I think we're paying 1.75. They were paying 1.75 just in processing fees. So that's over the top of interchange. So their overall effective rate was around almost 4%.
Wow.
I knocked them down to 25 points over, because that's fine. I don't mean to, that's what's appropriate for that account.
Right.
1.75. So I cut their processing fee by a sixth or seventh or so. And, so they were paying 1.75, but they didn't know it was just in processing fees.
Right.
And that's, unfortunately, that's the way our business is. There's a lot of people out there looking to make as much as they possibly can off people, rather than just do right by them. So.
Right. Yeah. And it was very well. And then what was crazy, to your point earlier, is we pull out the report, and I couldn't tell you how many line items of all the different credit cards and the rates that were charged for each of those credit cards. And I'm going to say there was 50 line items on that thing. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Who could ever figure out what they're actually paying for this? So the only way, yeah, exactly.
It took a while though.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like, I told him, I'm like, straight up, let's just add it all up and then divide it into the revenue. Let's figure out what you're paying, because that's the only way we're going to get a real honest number.
Exactly. That's that. So you got to do the effective rate first, and then you determine, you break down how do we arrive at that effective rate.
Yeah. So that was when you said that to me, I was like, oh, this guy gets it. Okay. I trust him. Let's
you actually can trust me. That's the unbelievable thing in this business. But I'll give you talk about the banks not giving the best deals to people. First of all, they outsource it. They outsource most of their services. And second of all, I can tell you that I got 4 or 5 accounts one time years back, because I told people, I said, Wells Fargo is hiding the cost of their processing in interchange. Well, I can't do that. I don't see it. I'm like, listen, I did the math, and I had to do some math to figure this out. I'm like, this can't be disappearing. They're hiding the cost of interchange. And they said, well, whatever. I said, okay. So about a year later, they got caught for hiding the cost of processing in interchange, and had to pay out billions back to their customers.
Right.
And I went around with those people, and I said, did I tell you? They're like, yeah, I got to check everything. So do you want to keep trusting them, or do you want to switch to me? They're like, I'll switch to you. so yeah, it was, you're right. The banks generally don't have the customer's best interest in mind. And frankly, a lot of these companies don't. Some, like I said, it just varies. You get some people that are better than others. And, but generally speaking, it's better to have someone you can trust, or know the business really well. Right.
Yeah, appreciate that. I thought that was valuable to talk about that, because I that was one of the things that really resonated with me when we had our conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Bill, a lot of great insights. Anything else that you want to share about Source One or Landmark Payroll?
No, I mean, I think just other than to know that, we really take care of the customers here, and, everyone here is just very straightforward. That's the way we've been in this business from the beginning. I enjoy building relationships with people, and once they realize they can trust me and that I'm on their side, that's where I get most of my business from. I don't have to make so much money off one guy, but if they know and I can build a good relationship with them, we always have things that are going on over here for specials and so forth, and we really work with people in ways other larger companies may not. So other than that, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Bill, it's been great. Appreciate your time. Eric, anything that you want to share about My Biz Coaches? Is this the week you finally, do the big reveal, or are you going to make us wait longer?
No, we're definitely waiting. I'm going to play this out until like October, man. Okay. We as I mentioned, we have the event. We're getting closer on that. We should tie that up by the end of the month, so we'll be able to announce that probably the last call of the week of the month, maybe the 1st of August. But we'll have the event tied up and we'll make the announcement on that. But yeah, the other special announcement is just around the corner. So
okay,
we'll see.
I want a special announcement now. I gotta get one of these.
I keep trying every week, Bill. I thought this would be the week, but he's
I've been teasing for about 6 weeks now.
Jeez, this special announcement thing is a real. Now I'm dying to know.
Awesome. Cool. Well, as always, Eric, great stuff. Bill, if people want to learn more, connect with you, head over to source1ps.com and landmarkpayroll.com. Is that the best way to get a hold of you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And we'll put links to both of those sites in the show notes. So if you're watching or listening, check out the notes and you got links there. And be sure to subscribe. We'll hopefully catch you on the next episode of the Biz Coach Show. And Bill, thanks again.
Hey, David, thank you. Eric, thank you as well.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Bill.
All right. Take care, guys.